Subaru is one of the most hated isekai anime protagonists ever made. People call him annoying, cringe, selfish, and even weak. But I think most people completely miss the point of his character. In the beginning of ReZero, we see Subaru suddenly transported to a fantasy world with no way back home. For most people, that would be terrifying. But Subaru sees it differently. Instead of panicking, he views it as a chance to escape his old life and start over completely in a new world. Now, if you've watched any isekai anime before, you're probably used to the main character starting off weak and gradually becoming stronger. Viewers often love seeing the protagonist gain powerful abilities and become someone everyone fears or admires. But Subaru isn't that kind of protagonist. And that's where the hate begins. See, he doesn't get some overpowered ability that lets him destroy his enemies with ease. Instead, he's given return by death, a power that sounds useful on paper, but in reality, feels more like a curse than a blessing. Imagine being forced to experience a death over and over again, remembering every moment of pain each time you come back. But Subaru being emotional isn't the only reason people dislike him. Another reason people don't like him is that because he makes terrible decisions. There are multiple points throughout the story where Subaru ignores advice, rushes into dangerous situations, or lets his emotions control his actions. As viewers watching from the outside, it's easy to look at these moments and think, why would he do that? The problem is, we're seeing the story with information Subaru doesn't have. While we can sit comfortably and analyze every situation, Subaru is forced to make decisions in the moment while dealing with fear, stress, and the trauma of countless deaths. That doesn't excuse his mistakes, but it does make them easier to understand. And if there's one flaw that contributes to many of those mistakes, it's Subaru's arrogance. After arriving in this new world, he starts to believe that he's the main character of some fantasy adventure. He assumes things will work out in his favor and often overestimates his own abilities. This leads to some of the most embarrassing moments in the series, where Subaru acts impulsively, ignores advice, and ends up making situations worse for himself. For many viewers, these scenes are difficult to watch. And honestly, I don't blame them. But that's exactly the point. Subaru starts the story with an unrealistic view of himself and the world around him. His journey isn't about becoming stronger physically, it's about growing as a person and confronting his own flaws. And I think this is where a lot of the hate for Subaru really comes from. Most anime protagonists are designed to be characters people really want to be. They're confident, powerful, cool under pressure, and always seem to know the right thing to say. Subaru is the complete opposite. He's insecure, emotional, stubborn, and often has no idea what he's doing. Instead of looking like a hero, he often looks like a normal teenager who has been thrown into situations far beyond what he can handle. And that's exactly what makes him feel so real. When Subaru fails, we see it. When he makes a mistake, we see it. When he embarrasses himself, we see it. The story doesn't hide his flaws or skip over them. It forces us to watch every bad decision and every consequence that comes with it. For some viewers, that makes Subaru frustrating to watch. But for others, it's what makes him one of the most realistic protagonists in anime. And that's because those flaws he makes weren't an accident. They were intentional. And here's the important part. These flaws aren't mistakes in his writing. Subaru isn't written to be instantly likable. In fact, early on in the story, he's designed to be frustrating. He's arrogant, emotional, and often unbearable to watch on purpose. And the reason for that is simple. His character arc is about breaking him down and rebuilding him. He starts the story believing he understands how a main character should act. He thinks confidence, boldness, and big declarations will carry him through any situation. But the world quickly proves him wrong. Every mistake he makes forces him to confront his own limits. Every failure strips away another layer of his ego. And over time, he slowly becomes more self-aware, more humble, and more willing to rely on others. So when people say Subaru is annoying early on, that's not necessarily wrong, but it is part of the point. You're not watching a finished hero, you're watching someone become one. And once you understand that, Subaru's growth starts to hit differently, because he doesn't improve in the usual anime way. There's no sudden power-up, no moment where everything becomes easy, and no point where he stops struggling completely. Instead, his growth is slow, painful, and messy. He learns to think before acting. He learns to rely on others instead of trying to carry everything alone. And most importantly, he starts to accept that he isn't special. just because he was chosen for this world. Every version of Subaru we see after his lowest points feels like a response to the mistakes he made earlier. He doesn't erase who he was, he builds on it. And that's what makes his character arc so satisfying for people who stick with it. Because by the time you see him act more calm, more responsible, and more self-aware, you remember exactly how far he had to fall to get there. So when people say they hate Subaru, it's usually not because he's a bad character. It's because he breaks a lot of the expectations we've been trained to have from anime protagonists. He's emotional when we expect calm, he fails when we expect success, he embarrasses himself when we expect confidence, but all of those traits are exactly what makes his journey work. Because Subaru isn't written to be admired from the start, he's written to be understood over time. And whether you end up liking him or not usually depends on whether you're willing to go through that process with him. So maybe the real reason people hate Subaru is the same reason others end up loving him. He feels too human in a world filled with heroes. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing so you don't miss future videos like this. And on that note, peace.